Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of fantasy romance and romantic fantasy, and I am head witch. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. So good. Today is Monday, November 1st, and as promised, I'm showing you the pièce de résistance from my costume. Uh, it was this plus makeup and some other stuff. I'll share it in the photo that I tag with this. I have a request today from the delightful Lisette Marshall I don't know if I'm saying your name right, Lisette, to talk about writing fight scenes because I am a self confessed uh, non lover of fight scenes. And so, how did I learn to do them? That's a good question. Um, and before I get to that, a little bit about the weekend. Very nice weekend. It was lovely actually. Um, got the laundry done. That was exciting. But Sifwa Halloween party on Saturday evening online, and that was really great. And I got to judge the costume contest. Birds are zooming around. I still have roses blooming, you guys. This has been just a wonderful fall. Nice to get to still be out in the garden some. Uh, and then on after the online party, I went to an actual real life party that was sort of on somebody's like deck and living room and so forth. It was Jack Mitchell's party, who writes as J. Barton Mitchell, and I interviewed him about his podcast on the show this summer, and I got to meet his podcast producer, who was very interesting, and we hit it off. And then even the next morning, she had sent me a Facebook message saying that it was nice to meet me and everything. So, I mean, that was really cool. And met a couple other people. Another gal who's an actress, and she's also what's called an intimacy coordinator. I had never heard of this before, but she has an agent that gets her gigs for being an intimacy coordinator. But basically, she goes on movie sets, and when there is a sex scene, she is there to help make sure that nobody feels like they are having their trust abused, that their boundaries are recognized. It was really, really cool job. Now that we've been hearing so many stories coming out of Hollywood where, if you wanted to be an actress in particular, that that the director would say, honey, strip and spread and do the sex scene or you're not getting any jobs. So it's really nice to hear that there is a thing like this now. Uh, yeah, and she was a really interesting person too. So hopefully we'll connect again. And it was nice just to like sit around and drink wine and have conversations with people that I hadn't met before, that were not in my bubble. And then yesterday afternoon, I got to have dinner and drinks with Megan Mulry, and we had one of our long ranging conversations, and that was wonderful. So, yeah, laid back and restful weekend. All right, as promised, writing fight scenes before I ramble off onto something else. I'm annoyed with the book that I've been reading, and I don't know if I'll talk about why it's annoying me or not. But so, writing fight scenes. It was suggested that I teach a class on this. I do have a class starting today on the keeping secrets, which I think you could still sign up for if you want to, because today will just be like introductions. I'll put the link in the show notes. I think, yeah, I'll put it in there. Am I stalling on talking about writing fight scenes? I'm not really. I feel like I don't have good advice to give because I feel like I'm still not very good at it. I've gotten better at it. So I don't like writing fight scenes because to me they are, well, first of all, they're about the violence, and I'm not a person who likes violence. I don't like violent solutions. I don't like, um, I just don't like violence, full stop. And you guys have heard me talk about this before. Is like, why do we always talk about like closed door sex scenes, but we don't have closed door fight scenes? You know, why can't we have a scene where it's like, and they fought when they emerged an hour later, because that's all I really care about is like how they emerge from the fight, right? Um, what kind of injuries do they have? How has it changed the balance of power? How is the plot going moving forward, right? Um, but there are, I don't know, it's funny. I saw someone talking about Grace's books, Grace Draven's books, and one of the points of praise was that her fight scenes were as detailed as her sex scenes, and they felt like that was good balance. And I was like, I mean, I could totally see that about Grace because she's tried to give me advice on writing fight scenes. I had one that was like my editor, it was in The Talon of the Hawk. And was it that book? No, I take it back. It was in The Edge of the Blade, but it was still Ursula. And my editor had said that the fight scene, the final battle fight scene, just was over way too fast. So I got Grace to help me. And she was like, she was trying to get me to add in all of these sensory details. And she's like, so when the sword slices into her gut, she said it like should fall out onto the deck like raw chicken parts. And I'm like, oh my God, Grace. I am not going to write this kind of thing. But and she cackles. She, if you guys have never talked to her in person, she has this little witchy Southern cackle where she goes, it's exactly how she sounds, isn't it, Grace? Yes. So, but I think she has an excellent point that, you know, we say that God is in the details. And by that, we mean it is the sensory details that bring scenes to life, that give them richness. And for newbie writers, this often gets misinterpreted, and you can see them doing it because they'll get the advice, you know, use all five senses in your work. And so, you know, they'll like trip through the, the senses. So, you know, it's like each paragraph, it's like, she smelled this, she saw this, she heard this, and it felt like this. And then she has to like go and taste something too. And don't do it that way, which I know it's tempting. It can be a good exercise to do it that way, to like for each scene, keep touching base with how do things feel? How do they smell? Is there a taste in the mouth? You know, you could also go into more than just the five physical senses, but you know, there's also proprioception, right? The sense of our body and space, how the body itself feels. Uh, you know, feeling is more than just like a tactile sensation. It's like the sensation in your gut, and it is the temperature of the air around you, and what, you know, how are you perceiving the light and the seasons. It helps ground the reader in a realistic feeling space. And then, you know, then you also have like the emotional states and so forth. So if you're having trouble with that aspect, it can be really useful to tick through those things. Go ahead and write them into the scene. But then when you revise, go through and smooth it out, because you don't want to be, you know, sort of like bullet pointing the senses every time. And we laugh, but I have seen people do that. It's like, no, no. So Grace's point about making it be real, making it be visceral is a good one. Now, another piece of advice I hear all the time is that, and okay, you guys, frankly, it just annoys me because people will say, writing fight scenes is just like writing sex scenes. And I'm sorry, no, they're just not. And this is a hill I will die on, and people get irritated with me about it. But because they feel like that it's the case. And it's like, well, then I'm going to say that your sex scenes aren't great if that's how you see the world, because it's more than the physical choreography, you guys. It's more than The arm went here and slashed here and it hurt or it felt great. Um, Sex scenes are about emotional, mental, spiritual intimacy. And it's sex is a way of getting at character transformation, right? Because I teach that a lot. Uh, it's not just the difference between violence versus love. It's sex scenes are about intimacy and they're about opening up raw and vulnerable places. Fight scenes are the opposite of that. And they are about being as guarded as possible. And people will argue with me that a fight scene can have character transformation, which I don't know. I'm going to say no. This is where I'm going to plant my flag. I don't think character transformation happens during fight scenes. I think character transformation happens as a result of the aftermath of fight scenes and perhaps going into the fight scene. But during the fight, and I'm putting battles into this as well, uh, there is a pitched feeling to a fight or a battle scene that makes it happens very fast and it's very intense and it's life or death. Whereas in sex scenes, it can be very, very slow, right? You could take all the time you want, and it can, there could be lots of teasing and buildup. It's just a totally different emotional dynamic. So yeah, anytime someone says, you know, if you can write sex scenes, you can write fight scenes and vice versa. No, physical choreography, maybe, but it's so much more than that, right? So, how have I learned to write fight and battle scenes? Um, the way that I do it, because I know that I hate it, is it's like the one exception to my rule of that normally I'm a linear writer and I, you know, write beginning to end and I'm always like, don't skip the sex scenes. I don't skip the fight scenes, but I sketch them in. I'll just sketch in, you know, do it in as few sentences as I need to get through to figure out like how they come out, right? You know, what injuries, what's the emotional aftermath. That part's interesting to me. I'm always interested in the emotional aftermath of the fight. It's just that to me there's not a lot of emotional intermath. There's not much going on in the actual fight scene because so much of it is not introspective, right? You're not thinking, you're not feeling. And I should caveat here, because I've gotten the advice, people are like, well, you know, if you learn to fight then you'd be able to do it. And it's like, okay, I did martial arts for like 15 years, you know, I know how to use a sword, I know how to use a staff, I've sparred, I know how to do all of those things. I've never been in like a real fight, but no, I know how to do it. And so when somebody told me, I had a critique partner who had said, you know, who had suggested, oh, well, you need to learn to swing a sword. I'm like, no, I know how to. And they're like, well, you don't put it in the scene. And they, and I was like, yeah, because I think it's boring. So then I wrote it in and they said, oh, you do know. I was like, I don't, I just don't want to. So I have to get over my don't want us, which I think is something we grapple with different parts of writing, that there's always some part where we don't want to. And so I sketch in the fight scene and I just let it be as bare bones as I want and keep going. And then I go back and I revisit it. And it, like I said, it's my one exception to normally I draft straightforward and I don't revisit. With the fight scenes or the battle scenes, I will go back and revisit periodically, especially as I figure out things later on that I know I want to have had happened during that fight scene or battle scene. And so I'll go back and I'll layer things in and I will add to it. And if I do it on multiple passes like that, I can actually get through it. So, for example, in the Fiery Crown, the Battle of Crodisica, this is exactly how I did it. It started out as like, I don't know, it was like 100, 200 words. It was pitiful. And then I just kept going back and adding more and more, especially as I figured out like where different characters needed to be and what their aftermath should be. And then I went ahead and backed up and wrote like where they were in the battle and what they were doing. And And then I added in those sensory details to really ground it in reality. And so adding in, because that is one thing about being in a fight scene, is that your senses are hyper vigilant, right? So the characters notice everything and stuff happens fast, but they see it coming. And yeah. Okay, so that's how I do it. I'm not sure if that was helpful, but that's how I've figured out how to do it. I don't worry about there being, when people say there's character transformation in a fight scene. Um, Sometimes it makes me wonder if they know what character transformation is. I know that's mean, sorry, but if we look at Fiery Crown and Battle of Cordiska, um, what Connery comes out of that battle with, that is a major, major black moment for him. It's a major realization of his own foibles, and it's a huge turning point for him and for the series. But it doesn't happen during the battle, because during the battle he is entirely focused on taking down the emperor. I mean, that's, and maybe that's part of it, is that in a fight scene, you know, there there's only a couple of things that the characters are thinking about, and it's like surviving and then achieving whatever goal it is that got them into the fight in the first place. So again, not a lot of introspection. It's not a um, in some ways not terribly emotional, because it's like all adrenaline fueled. It's just like boom, 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 and then the transformation happens afterwards as a result of, and that's when everyone is licking their wounds and so forth. And I like the licking the wounds scene. So there you have it. A little something fell in my coffee. A leaf. We hope it's a leaf. All right. Oh, one nice thing that Megan said is she read The Secret Project because she's privileged, and I gave it to her, and she loves it. And Megan doesn't love all of my stuff. She likes some. She loves Ruby, from way, 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 way back, the BDSM New Orleans story, which is more contemporary. She doesn't love the fantasy stuff so much, but she really loves this book. So that was good news. And this morning I am getting back onto the novella. I've passed midpoint, and I realized that I probably get to write a sex scene soon. So that makes me happy. And later there will be a fight scene. But we take the bad with the good. So on that note, I will remind you all that First Cup of Coffee is part of the Frolic Media Podcast Network, and you will find more podcasts that you love at frolic.media/podcasts. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. You all take care. Bye bye.